Asato ma sadgamaya, tamaso ma jyotirgamaya, mrityorma amritam gamaya. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Om, lead us from the unreal to the real, lead us from darkness into light, lead us from death to immortality. Om, peace, peace, peace. Just a little note before we go into the question answers. Enlightenment has two aspects. What I would like to call the paradigm shift and the ethical manifestation. When you say somebody as a Buddha, Jivan Mukta, God realized, there are two things which we expect, which constitutes that enlightenment, Buddhahood, Jivan Mukta, whatever it is. One is the realization that you are Brahman, in a Vedantic context. So clearly I am not body mind. This knowledge must be there. This knowledge means this realization, not just what we have heard here, not just information. Just as there is a knowledge now that I am this man sitting here on the chair, it's quite clear. It's not theory for me. Similarly, it should not be theory. I am awareness. And Advaita Vedanta insists this is the case right now. We're just not seeing it. So this shift should be there. The I should shift from I body mind to I Brahman, Satchidananda, I am Brahman. So this is what is called paradigm shift. Paradigm shift. But along with that, enlightenment also is ethical manifestation. Because when we talk about an enlightened person, we expect that person to be saintly. We expect that person to be pure and disciplined, and especially selfless, loving, fearless. Fearlessness is a big. Another thing is, I say sometimes jokingly, but I mean it. If you become enlightened, one thing you immediately lose is the right to grumble. You cannot complain about anything in life anymore. So all these qualities we expect in the manifestation of those qualities. In the Bhagavad Gita again and again he points out. When Arjuna asks, what is it like to be enlightened? What is it like to be enlightened? So clearly you realize you are Brahman. Then Arjuna's question is different. He says, alright, you realize you are Brahman, whatever that is. But you are still this person. How will this person be different after enlightenment? Sthita prajnasya ka bhasha samadhistasya keshava sthitadhi kimasita kim prabhasheta kimasita vrajeta kim. So the enlightened one. And look at the term used for enlightenment in the Gita. The one of stabilized wisdom. Sthita prajna. We often say, alright, I've got it, it's absolutely clear, but one little problem is there. What? It slips away sometimes. It's, I forget it, again I have to study it or listen to a talk or meditate and then it comes back. But no, stabilized wisdom. We never say that, I am this person. I never say it slips away sometimes. I don't say that, it's naturally, effortlessly present. So that should happen. Arjuna asks, the person of stabilized wisdom, how does this person remain, what's this person like when this person remains absorbed in meditation, samadhi? And when he's not in samadhi, when he's walking, talking, interacting with us, how is he different from the rest of us? How is this person different? Kim prabhasheta, how does this person react to the world, react to life? What does this person say about life? How is it different from what we say about our lives? How does this person sit, talk, interact, walk? Literally doesn't mean sit. We can always answer, sits on a chair. But no. What he means is, how does this person interact with the world? Vrajeta means goes out into the world. How does this person interact with people and things and events in life? How does this person withdraw from the world? How does this person speak, react to the world? And then Krishna's answer. So this is the manifestation of your realization. That's why Vivekananda did not say that religion, his famous definition of religion is the manifestation of the divinity already within us. He did not say religion is the knowledge of the divinity already within us. See, this is we are giving knowledge of the divinity within us. You are limitless existence, consciousness, bliss. You are Brahman, the cause of the universe. You are eternal, you are non-dual, you are all-pervasive. This is the divinity within us, our real nature. But Vivekananda did not say just the knowledge of the divinity. He said manifestation. For manifestation, you need the knowledge and also to live it. As the Americans say, walk the talk when the rubber hits the road. If you are really enlightened, I should see a difference in the way you lead life. Of course, nobody can understand whether a person is enlightened from the outside. But still, at least to you, there should be a marked difference. You should claim that, yes, I have transcended sorrow, I have attained fulfillment. I personally, you don't have to say it out loud, you don't have to change your Facebook status to now enlightened. But you should feel it, that deep fulfillment, that effortless fulfillment. You should be able to say with Krishna, Yam labdha nachaparam labham manyate tato adhikam yasmin sthito dukkhena gurunapi na vichalyate. Having attained which, you consider nothing greater is remaining to be attained. I have attained the greatest thing in this life, in this universe. And having being centered in which even the greatest of sorrows cannot shake you. This means sthito dukkhena gurunapi na vichalyate. The heaviest of sorrows cannot shake you. I have attained that. Should feel that, and then it should be reflected in your life. So, ethical manifestation and paradigm shift. Paradigm shift, you can check, is it effortlessly, stably clear to me that I am Brahman? First of all, conceptually clear. That itself will take some time. Listen, ask questions. This book is all about questions and answers. The deepest questions, answers with arguments. This is manana, thinking about it, reasoning about it. And this is just a sample. Don't think that these answers are final or any. All of these answers, I'm telling you as an Advaitin also, all of them can be disputed and challenged. And they have been. And there are lots and lots of debates over centuries, millennia actually. I told you one of the golden periods of Indian philosophy was when for 1,000 years the Hindu philosophers fought with the Buddhist philosophers about existence of Atman, about the existence of God. That was a golden period for Indian philosophy. Metaphysics developed, epistemology developed, the philosophy of language developed, logic, what I just mentioned, this Nyaya philosophy of saying the new school of logic, that developed because of the 1,000-year debate between Hindus and Buddhists. What they realized over the centuries, both sides, they realized was a lot of our confusion is caused by language. So we need precise language. Exactly the same thing happened in modern Western philosophy in the 20th century. By 19th and the beginning of 20th century, all of philosophy suddenly became about language. That's the sign of development of philosophy. First, it begins with what is real, God, soul, world, begins with that. Then one begins to think, how do we know all these things? They're saying all these big things, but how do we know? So the concern shifts to epistemology, pramana, sources of knowledge. What is direct perception? What is the value of inferential knowledge? What is the value of testimony, holy books? All these things are debate. But then you understand, a lot of the debates are language. So the main concern shifts to language itself. And what the Nayayikas realized was, to facilitate philosophical debate, we need precise language. So what they did was, they invented a new language, which is the Navya Nyaya language. It is Sanskrit, but a very peculiar Sanskrit. Bhutale ghato nasti, that's normal Sanskrit. On the surface or on the table, there is no pot. But you know what the Navya Nyaya translation of that is? The pot, the table qualified by the absence of a pot. The table is characterized by the absence of a pot. You are in English, there is no pot on the table. That is equivalent to table with the characteristic of pot absence. So they invented a specific language for debate, and then it worked. All the other schools, the Advaitists, the Buddhists, they all came to learn that language. They came to Mithila and then finally they came to Navadvipa in Bengal. Even till late in the British period, when India was a British colony, by the 18th century or so, even then Tibetan lamas were coming from Tibet to Navadvipa. The records of them coming and learning logic, neologic in Navadvipa. For what? They are not Nyayikas, they are Buddhists. They have complete disagreement with the Nyaya philosophy. But they want to learn the technique, the new language of Tibet. All of that disappeared by the 18th, 19th centuries. All the Pandits, their children did not become Pandits, they became clerks in the British government. There is a book, The Lost Age of Reason. The Lost Age of Reason. Janardhan Kaneri. He is one of the leading Indian philosophers now. He is teaching in the University of Toronto. Janardhan Kaneri. The Lost Age of Reason. How finally the Indian logic and philosophy came to an end in the British period. It sort of disappeared. And further work disappeared, stopped. The second great age of, golden age of philosophy was after the whole Buddhist Hindu episode, after all that. When from about 11th century onwards up to 16th century, there was a huge debate between Advaitas, the school which we are talking about, and their opponents. Primarily the Vishishtadvaita school of Ramanuja and the Dvaita school of Madhva. So they mounted fierce attacks on Advaita Vedanta. What is Maya? How are you saying the world is false and all of these things? So that led to the Advaitins defending themselves and counterattacks on the other schools. So for 500-600 years the debate continued. And that led to a second flowering of Indian philosophy. So many texts. I say the own, I will not say V1, I think V1. Even till recently there were debates. There was a big debate in Bangalore in the 1980s. On one side there was a great Advaita master, Kashikananda Giri, who passed away just a few years ago. He lived in Mumbai, he was from Kerala. And on the Madhva side there was another great scholar. So they challenged each other to fight. And the debate was on the line in the Bhagavad Gita, Kshetragyam chapi mam vidhi sarva kshetreshu bharata. 13th chapter of Bhagavad Gita. Question somebody asked, how do I know it is one consciousness in all these, one I am in all? That was the subject of the debate. Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita, I am the one consciousness in all these fields, the one knower of the field. Advaitists have that interpretation. The dualists have some other interpretation. So there was a clash. What was the result? The first day, the two Pandits, they discussed it, debated it. And on one side, the supporters of the non-dualists were sitting, on the other side, supporters of the dualist position were sitting. It ended with the supporters throwing chairs at each other. And the debate ended in chaos. And the Advaita master, he wrote a book, Advaita Vaijayanti Mala, the garland of victory of Advaita. He said, this debate ended in chaos, and I wrote to the organizers, tell us who won. And I received no reply, so I take it that I have won. But again, who won was Indian philosophy. Indian philosophy developed. So many texts. I believe Advaita Vedanta was the it became this powerful system, so coherent, so well argued. It's because of nearly 1,000 years of attacks on it. You have to come up with these answers. And these attacks were not simple attacks. There were master brains behind it. Very subtle. What books? Tarka Tandava, the dance of love, of arguments. Tarka Tandava. So on. So Indian philosophy won. I remember one of my teachers, Swami, from whom I learned Advaita, one of the teachers, was standing in front of the monastery one day after a class. I tentatively, I was a newcomer, tentatively asked, can I ask a question? I thought he might be offended. He said, ask, go on and ask. Better brains than yours have asked questions for over 1,000 years and their answers have been given. So don't think because you ask a couple of questions, the whole edifice of Advaita will come crumbling down. You ask whatever you like. Good. So Indian philosophy really developed the second time in the next part of, in this millennium, from 1100 onwards. One more point I didn't cover. When I said 12 philosophies are there, I mentioned six 6 orthodox schools. Then there are the 6 heterodox schools. There is a Charvaka, the materialist. Then there is a Jaina, the school of Jainism. These are vast schools. Jainism has a vast literature. Just saying Jaina school itself, it's very vast and complete. I know very little about it. Then there is 4 Buddhist schools. Sautrantika, Vaibhashika, Yogachara Vijnanavada and Madhyamaka Shunyavada. So 12 schools. What are the 12 schools? Nyaya, Vaisheshika, Sankhya, Yoga, Purva Mimamsa, Uttara Mimamsa, Vedanta, our school. Then the materialist, Charvaka, the Jaina school, the 4 Buddhist schools. So 12. This Swami I mentioned, who was the Advaita master who said he won the debate, one of his titles was The Lion Who Stalks the Forest of 12 Philosophies. That's his title. Dvadasha Darshana Kanana Keshari. The lion who stalks he is the most skinny and inoffensive looking one. You wouldn't think that he's the lion who walks in the forest of 12 philosophies. Anyway, I'm rambling, so. Questions? This time we'll work our way this way, from here to that way. Yes, the gentleman there, can you get the microphone? And then we'll come to this lady and that gentleman.
I'm Swami. So I have a question about step 1 of Drigdarsha Viveka and self-reflexivity. So if we consider introspection, so introspection is the mind thinking about itself. This is basically my question, right? It seems like the mind would be the knower.
If you have a thought, and then you think about that thought, that's introspection.
Right, so it seems like in the Triputi we have the knower and the known are both then in the mind, which would then be the mind operating on
but it's one thought operating on the other thought. It's not like mind operating on itself. One thought objectifying another thought or the memory or a feeling. You are introspecting on your own feeling. So it's intellect introspecting on a feeling.
Okay, so then the seer and the seen in that are kind of different.
There's a difference. So it's not a thing operating on itself.
Okay.
Now, then the
Thank you.
here. Very good.
Namaste, Swami. So my question was if the characteristics of deep sleep, or the lack thereof, is similar to the characteristics of Akasha.
Nobody's asked that before. What would be the characteristics which are similar?
So that it is formless. In its original state, nothing is reflected upon it. And it is probably the closest thing to Brahman.
To Brahman, yes. Yeah, in those senses that is true. I never heard the comparison being made. But yeah, these are similarities. Usually space is used as an example for Brahman itself. And the gentleman there.
Swami, thanks for the wonderful lectures. I enjoyed the talk in Dallas and Ashtavarkara and I followed here.
You have come from Dallas. I was just mentioning to somebody here that somebody said in Dallas that he is coming to Phoenix.
So, after this lecture, we assuming that we are all A+ students, when we go back to our regular lifestyles, would you please give us some advice in terms of how do we go about it?
Yes. And by the way, in Dallas we studied a little bit of the Ashtavakra Gita. So do you notice the difference between that text and this text?
Yes, sir. As you said, it is more of a mananam.
This is mananam. And that's a nididhyasana.
Yes.
There only the conclusion is said. There they will say, you are infinite consciousness. You are limitless. The world appears in you. That's what they will say. Here they will say, you are limitless. World appears in you because of such and such argument. So, the advice is that we all must first own up, please say, that we are spiritual seekers. What are we doing here? Either we are out of curiosity, which is fine, but at one point we must make up our mind that there is truth in this and I must seek it. So we are all spiritual seekers. We are all sadhakas and sadhikas. Seeker means we will become practitioner. You really seek something, you will do something about it. Doing it becomes practice. Practice is called sadhana. So this is the first step. That who am I? I am a person right now in search of God. You don't have to change your Facebook status. In search of God. No. Don't advertise it. Keep it to yourself. Most of us already are. Otherwise, we wouldn't be coming here spending time, energy, money to stay here and hours to listen to an abstruse philosophy. Why would you do that? So we already are spiritual seekers, but it's important to acknowledge it to ourselves. If you put on this robe and walk out into the world, you're acknowledging it not only to yourself, but to everybody else also. That this is my only purpose in life. If you don't do that, you are a hidden practitioner. Within yourself, you are a practitioner. Outside, you may just carry on as you did. Just like the warrior Arjuna. Before the Gita, he was a warrior. After the Gita, he was a warrior. He just did what he was continuing to do. But inside, he had become a spiritual seeker. See, he came to the battlefield to take revenge for all the wrongs done to him and his brothers and his wife. And to get back the kingdom which was rightfully theirs, which the villains had taken away. And to do his duty as a Kshatriya warrior who was to protect dharma and all of that. But after the Gita, what did he become? Because before the Gita, he had lost all interest in these things. So he had become a sadhaka, a seeker. Now he did all of that, whatever he did as karma yoga, as part of his spiritual practice. So, we must become a spiritual seeker. Mahatma Gandhi, he writes in his autobiography, when people ask, who are you? People think different things about me. Some people think I am a freedom fighter against the British. That's what we learned in history books as kids in India. Great freedom fighter Mahatma Gandhi. Some people think I'm a politician. Some people think I'm a social reformer working for untouchables, for the cause of uplift of women and poor people and all of that. But if you ask me, who are you? I will say I am a simple man in search of God. This acknowledgement that I am a simple person in search of God, this is what we must say to ourselves. Without this, no spiritual life will start. That's why Bhagavan Buddha in Buddhism, he starts with Samyak Drishti, a right philosophy of life. Eightfold Path, remember Buddhism as Eightfold Path? First thing, to begin the Eightfold Path, one must have a right philosophy, a right view. What is the right view? I am the sentient being, I am seeking liberation, and I will do spiritual practice to attain liberation. This is the right view. Then comes the practice itself. And the practice, when I said in the first class itself, remember the 3x3 matrix. There must be Karma Yoga, Bhakti Yoga, meditation, Dhyana, Raja Yoga, and Jnana Yoga in our lives. These four components. What we are doing here is pure Jnana Yoga. But there must be daily meditation, daily service, and daily devotion. Not just acknowledge it, do it every day. And then the culmination, which will come in time of realization. That should have two parts. One is the paradigm shift. I will shift from I am this person to I am Brahman, and the ethical manifestation. That am I actually over time becoming a much better person? Slowly but steadily. This is the practice. One practical hint, if you are interested at all, this is your entirely personal choice. Usually I don't say these things in public. One great help in personal spiritual life is mantra diksha. I don't give it before you ask. I don't initiate. But I think in the Phoenix ashram, those who are from Phoenix, Swami Sarvapriyananda. Is that correct,
Right.
Sandhya? Yes. He comes once in a while. Or you can go to Los Angeles, Hollywood, and get Mantra Diksha. And there are other Swamis in our order, if you are interested. So, Mantra Diksha is a very powerful aid, very, very, very powerful aid to have your own personal spiritual practice. Then, I'll come back to those who have raised their hands. The lady there, yes. And then the gentleman here. Was there anybody else? You were here, yes.
Pranam Swamiji, relatively simple questions, I think. First, I want to know how you got into this path. Second question is
how I got into
this journey, this path of seeking God. Second question is, we are all supposed to, we are born because we are born and we should be realizing ourselves. That's our sole purpose. And I often hear that you don't come into a satsang like this, or you don't get into this path without the blessings of Guru or without some other reason. So it seems like the odds are stacked against a human being to get into this path without the blessings of a Guru or without some other thing. So it seems contradicting to me that, oh, your sole purpose is to realize God, and then the odds are stacked against you.
Okay, 2 questions. Good questions. First, I'll answer the second question first. So, what she asked, did you understand? That you keep saying the goal of human life is God realization. And then it seems so difficult. So how come, if the goal is God realization, why should it be so difficult to find this path, find a teacher, find the teachings, get interest in it at all? I'm not just saying Advaita Vedanta, any spiritual path. So Ramakrishna was very clear about it. Different paths, but they all lead to enlightenment. They all work, they all lead to the same goal. For me, the Advaita Vedanta path which I am following, and the place where we are, the Franciscan path, it's a bhakti path, pure bhakti path. Both will work, both are valid, and both will take you to the highest goal. But why at all? How many are interested? And how many are following? Why it seems so stacked against? If this is the goal, why is it so difficult? The reason is that it's not really stacked, and everybody is, whether you know it or not, we are all moving towards that goal. Only thing is, some are doing it wisely and some are doing it otherwisely. We are all seeking fulfillment. That's the goal. What are we seeking? So, a person who wants to earn $1 million, the kids who are partying in nightclubs in Manhattan, and the meditator in the meditation room, and that person who is seriously studying Vedanta, they all want the same thing. They want deep peace, joy, fulfillment, and overcoming of suffering. And the way if you seek it in pleasure, if you seek it in money, in fame, in worldly achievement, you will get a little bit of it, and that will also disappear very soon. It will never be enough. When we realize that, finally we come to a spiritual path. So its odds are not really stacked against you. Everything is helping you, but in a much vaster canvas. So when you look at life, only a few people seem to be actual sadhakas or sadhakas. But in one sense, Rishi Aurobindo said, life itself is yoga. If you do it deliberately, consciously, you come to a retreat, you sit for meditation, do a devotional practice, do japa, you say, I am a sadhika. If you don't, you just say, no, none of that, I don't believe in all that, I am just living my life. You are doing the same thing, but you are doing it unconsciously. Only thing is, if you do it unconsciously, it's like floating around here and there. It will take lifetime after lifetime. And ultimately, you will have to do it consciously. So better awake and pursue this. Arise, awake, so Vivekananda said, stop not until the goal is reached. The Upanishad says, Uttishtata jagrata prapya varan nibodhata. Arise, Shakaracharya explains there, arise from your beginningless sleep of ignorance. O Jiva, O sentient being, Jagrata, arise from your anadi, from beginningless time you have been sleeping the sleep of ignorance, of delusion. Arise, awake, awake unto your real nature as existence, consciousness, bliss. How? Go to those adored ones, those great masters, and learn from them. Praptya varan nibodhata. understand, get that knowledge from them. That means come to the retreat.
About yourself.
About myself, what is there to say? When I grew up, I always felt that I had a spiritual goal. Among the monks I have seen, there are two distinct categories. One is those at some age they felt that they want to follow this life and seek God and try to realize God. Before that, they were just normal kids like everybody else. And there's another group who from childhood itself they felt a spiritual urge. Both groups are there. I belong firmly to that latter category because as far back as I can remember, even in class 7, class 8, I used to write in my notebook, goal of life, number 1, I would like to become a pilot, to fly aeroplanes. Number 2, to find God, to realize God. As I grew a little older, the pilot thing disappeared and God became the one and only goal. I never thought that I would ever take a job or be a family person. I felt that by the time I'd already learned about monks and monasticism, because my parents were also closely associated with the Ramakrishna mission. I used to go to the local ashram. At first my parents took me once or twice. After that I would go many more times than my parents and get scoldings from my mom because you're not doing your homework, you're just sitting in the ashram. So by the time I finished my education, I went straight and I joined the order. I decided I would be a monk. So that's how I came to be a monk. I must thank my parents also because they are the ones, parents and grandparents especially, who introduced me to Vivekananda, Ramakrishna, and the literature, not directly to Vedanta, but the literature was there. I still marvel. I was, I think 11 years old or 12 years old when I first read Panchadashi. Almost the whole of it, nearly 15 chapters. I read it with great excitement. I had a little bit of Sanskrit in school, so I could read the Sanskrit original translation, Swami Swaminandaji's translation. That's the book, Panchadashi. And so many other books, Vivek Chudamani and others I read. I don't know what I understood, but one thing is sure, I still remember my liking, my excitement at reading that. So it's like I was reading something that was very familiar to me. Not that I understood all the intricacies, that depth came later on with actual study. But the liking, the feel for this was there even as a child. The lady here.
Swamiji, I often wonder, even though I can give my own answer that all of this life is the appearance, but I still have a hard time. How do we deal with what we would call the evil in the world, the wars, the aggression, the unjustness, the lies, the polarization, and all that aggression? How do we deal with that in our everyday lives?
So what you are asking is a classic problem in religion. It's called the problem of evil. If you Google it, you'll find it. It's a vast area of study. But before I answer that, your question is more precise. Some people say that, first of all, if God exists, why is there so much suffering in the world? That's the way they put it. But you are asking a more precise question. Whatever the reason for it, the fact is that there is suffering. How do we deal with it? By being helpful, by service. I was thinking about this question, and there are multiple answers to this. But the real answer, the first answer, I found not in a philosophy book, but in the annual report of the Ramakrishna Mission, our parent organization in India, which talks about how many schools we have, how many hospitals we have, how many patients have been treated, how many children are studying there, how many people have been helped during floods and earthquakes and things like that. That gave me the answer. How do you deal with sorrow, unhappiness, bereavement, tragedy in this world? First and foremost, by being helpful. Do whatever you can. You can do very little actually. But to respond to it, be up and do it. Not to theorize about it philosophically. Okay, so that is done. Will that solve it? No, it won't. It won't. There will be another tragedy and another tragedy after that. From minor tragedies like personal loss, death, bereavement, to mass tragedies like floods and earthquakes, who had happened one after another in neighboring countries. Morocco and Libya. Tens of thousands of people killed in minutes. And that you cannot prevent. In the heart of in the very 20th century, the heart of Europe, there is a war raging, and not a small war, huge war. So it cannot be prevented. It will happen. It's always happened. It will happen. In different ways it will happen. Our response should be helpfulness, service, not ignoring it. And then comes the philosophical question. How do you deal with it? How do you make sense of it? This is called evil, the problem of evil. So, if God exists, God is all powerful, all good and all loving. Wouldn't God prevent evil? But doesn't seem to prevent evil. So, there are various answers to it. Let me give you an old, ancient Jewish answer. Jewish answer is this. Yes, God exists. Then why is there evil? There are two kinds of evil. One is the human evil, which we deliberately cause to ourselves and others. By behaving badly, speaking hurtfully, and actually hurting other people. Physically hurting people, or by our behavior, damaging the environment, all sorts of evil. Human cause, deliberately cause evil. Why doesn't God prevent that? Because the answer is, this is common to Judaism and Christianity. Because God has given us freedom of will. If we couldn't do that, then we wouldn't be human. If God wanted, I'm speaking from a Judaic perspective. If God wanted, He could have made us an angel who cannot do anything bad. But then that's not freedom. He gives you the freedom to be an angel or a demon, and then suffer the consequences of that. So all the human evil that we see here is a misuse of our power of free will. That's one answer. But then what about the natural evil, which we can, the flood, the earthquake? I can imagine that some part may be caused by global warming, but many things are not caused by us. A volcano eruption, a meteor comes and strikes us and wipes out lots of people. Then we didn't cause it, it's nature which caused it. Or in nature itself, it's inbuilt, a lot of suffering. A lion jumps on a deer and eats it, tears it apart. There is that evil you cannot prevent. A lizard catches an insect. Insect flutters, you see it's suffering. That is evil you cannot prevent. Why does God permit it? The Jewish answer is, see, God, after creating this universe, fades to the background, erases Himself. Because there is a related question. If God really exists, why so mysterious? Why so hidden? It should be obvious everywhere. God is so powerful, so great. This is a nice answer. The Jews give this answer. That God fades to the background, erases Himself as it were from this universe, so that you can have faith. This may not be very convincing to hear people, but then what's the only way you can get God? Only through faith. You have to believe it. Because it's not obvious. If God didn't do that, if God were manifest everywhere, then you wouldn't need faith. God would be reality. Here and there God appears. Morning, evening God appears. You just go to the God auditorium and see God and come back. No, that doesn't happen. So faith, and that is essential. That's the essential thing about devotional religions, faith. Faith is possible only if God fades away to the background. So that's an ingenious argument. And God veils Himself. How? See, even here is the veiling power of Maya. How does God veil Himself? The veil is injustice, horror, suffering, which shouldn't be there if God exists. So that veil that obscures the presence of God. This is an answer. And there are many other answers. There is a book, Indian Thought and the Problem of Evil, Professor Arthur Herman. Your question, 23 answers are there. Collected from all the religions of the world, from different philosophies and even from literature, 23 answers. Oh, 23 answers to my question. Why is there evil in the world? None of them will satisfy you. They're all like this, one. The Indian answer is karma. Is karma. Cause and effect. So cause and effect. Causality. Actions have consequences. So whatever we are suffering, there is some of our action or as a community action which has produced our lives and this environment we are in. Anyway, so these are different answers to it. Yes. Gentlemen here. But look it up. I mean, I gave a 1.5 hour talk last year in Calgary about it. Problem of evil. In Christian theology, there is a branch of theology which is called theodicy. Theodicy, theodicy. It's that branch of theology which justifies the ways of God to man. What does it mean? It's like acting like a lawyer for God. You're charging God. Why so much problem? God is silent, he's not answering you. Now who has to answer? The scholar has to answer. He takes up the case and speaks to you, trying to convince you everything is all right. God is there. So these are the reasons why so much evil is there. Yes, please.
Sairam Swamiji. I have two questions. The first question is regarding the chart that you have up there. Out of all the objects on the right hand side, the ego is the only one that has the characteristics of both the subject and the object. Right?
Not just the ego. And through the ego, the mind also, see when we say subject, right now the mind is the subject. And through the mind, the body also becomes the subject. When I say I am the subject, I generally talk about I meaning body mind. Now because we have precisely identified it, so the precise beginning of that, this relative subject is at the ego point. From the ego to the mind, to the senses, up to the body becomes the subject.
So the reflected consciousness in the ego is transmitted to all the other objects.
Now look at your own experience of the body-mind. The eye feels aware, it shines with consciousness. But the mind also feels aware. You just examine it. Thoughts, feelings, emotions, they are thoughts, feelings, emotions, no doubt, but they are all surcharged with awareness. You feel conscious. Even the senses feel alive and conscious. When you use the eyes, the ears, these feel like conscious experiences. So consciousness it pervades the living body. Where does it come from? The source is pure consciousness. From there, reflected through the medium of ignorance, the causal body. But that doesn't seem obvious to us. The first point where it seems obvious, all this I am translating from Vedanta Sara. The first point where it seems obvious is the Vijnanamaya Kosha, the intellect sheet with its ego. That's what shines first. And I say I for the first time. The system is booting itself. The next other apps come online. Intellect, mind, sensory systems next, boot up. Eyes, ears, I open my eyes and look around, hear, alarm clock, see a ringing, touch, smell, all of that. Then the motor systems kick into action. I become this body. Within a second, 2 seconds, within a few seconds it happens.
So is there like a hierarchy of subjects? Is that what you're saying?
No, it's one subject.
There's
no hierarchy.
But it starts in the ego.
Yes, the source is the ego. But the subject is a complex thing. Our subject in the sense of the usual term in which we use subject, usual way. In Advaita Vedanta, subject is only Sakshi, the witness consciousness.
So the second question was, yesterday you talked about the Brahmakara with Vritti. So every time we go into meditation and abide as pure consciousness, it doesn't happen too often, but it does. Does the Brahmakara Vritti arise every time you do that? Or is it one spot?
So this is a question again in Vedanta Sara. There is a discussion of what is Brahmakara Vritti. Vritti means modification of mind. So the question arises, in enlightenment, is the mind useful or not? Now we find both kinds of statements in the Upanishads. The Atman is to be realized by the mind itself. The Atman cannot be realized by the mind. How do you reconcile this? Both are true. There is something that the mind can do and something that the mind cannot do as far as the Atman is concerned. What happens is this, I can show you very quickly, but you have to go to Vedanta Sara. The two operative terms here are something called Vritti Vyapti and Phala Vyapti.
Yes, I've read that.
You have read that?
Yeah.
Oh, then it's all right.
I think it's talk number 17.
Oh, good. Vritti Vyapti and Phala Vyapti.
Yes.
Yes. So this is for those who understand the terms. For knowing anything in the world, external or even in the mind. Both vritti vyapti and phala vyapti are necessary. Why I am using the Sanskrit terms is if I translate into English, it will make even less sense. Vritti vyapti means pervasion by modification of mind. Phala vyapti means pervasion by reflected consciousness. So both are necessary for knowing anything in this world, including the mind. But for realizing I am Brahman, only vritti vyapti is necessary. Phala vyapti is not necessary. It's like this. You know the examples I gave. This is all borrowed from, this example is from sadhus in the Uttarakhand. They use this for teaching. The example of moonlight. So at night like this, and on the earth is in darkness. How do we know anything? By moonlight. But moonlight, the light doesn't belong to the moon. It's sunlight. So sunlight is reflected from the moon and it illumines the earth. Sun is the symbol of Atma, pure consciousness. That one. Moon is symbol of the mind. And the moonlight is a symbol of reflected consciousness. It is through reflected consciousness, it's through moonlight that we know things in the earth at night. It's through reflected consciousness that we know anything which is insentient, which is not luminous. This whole universe and our own minds. Everything we know through reflected consciousness. Now what is enlightenment? Enlightenment is like the solar eclipse. What happens is, the moon comes in between the earth and the sun. So, the earth passes into darkness. And what happens to the moonlight? The moonlight, the sunlight falls on the moon, and in the moonlight is now, instead of illumining the earth, it illumines, it reflects back to the sun. Now, will you say that the moonlight is illumining the sun? That's ridiculous. The sun doesn't need to be illuminated. It's shining with vast light all the time. Not only that, the moonlight which now goes back to the sun, reflected back to the sun, is also basically the sun's own light. And that little bit of light is of no, it doesn't do anything to the sun. Similarly, what happens in enlightenment is, the mind turned totally away from the world, focused on your Vedantic inquiry. As you trace it back from body to prana to mind to intellect, noticing each, not just theoretically, noticing each intellect, ego, then the blankness beyond both, beyond all these four sheets, the blankness, the Anandamaya Kosh, the causal body, and that to which all of these are appearing. At one point, this will become clear. Notice here, all of these are already in your experience. The mountain, the cactus, your own body, your own thoughts, your prana, your thoughts, your memories, your intellect, even the sense of ego. All these are already within our experience. Nothing here is unknown. You know, some people think Advaita Vedanta is very complicated. It's not. To me at least, it's literally, it can't get any simpler. Any other system either asks you to believe in something or practice something and get some other kind of experience. This is exactly things as they are right now. Not one thing here is extra. Not one thing here is to be taken on faith. Not one thing here is waiting to be experienced. Everything you experience right now. Even the causal body, which sounds very esoteric, is what we experience in deep sleep. Only thing that's new here is pure consciousness. Atman, Brahman, whatever you call it. And according to Advaita Vedanta, that's also being experienced right now. Being experienced means quote unquote, but it's still most obvious right now. But we don't see it. And the whole point of Advaita Vedanta is to break through that veiling so that what is already there, what is obvious, really becomes obvious.
So the turning within.
The turning within is done through Vedantic inquiry, vichara. What is the Vedantic inquiry? With help of these books, Ashtavakra, what not? All these books. They all draw your attention to body, and then will say, not body. They will draw your attention to prana, and then say, not prana. Na devo, na indriyam, na manap, na prana, it says that. And why not? All those arguments. I gave you 5 arguments. He gave you 3 arguments. Mamata parirabdhatva, akridatva, iram hiya, all of these arguments. As you trace it back in your own experience, you can easily go back to here. At one point it will be here. Only difference is Up to this, they are all objects of reflected consciousness. This one is an object to pure consciousness. But they are all objects. They all require consciousness to illumine them. And this one does not require consciousness to illumine. It is the consciousness which illumines everything.
It is self.
Yeah, self-luminous. It's Swaprakasha.
So my question was, does that tracing back happen every time you go into meditation and avoid
if you are doing Vedantic Vichara?
Yes.
If you are meditating on Ganesha, then it won't happen.
No, but if
But you are doing Vedantic meditation, you do it. You step from here to here to here to here, Vedanta Vichara. And then try to appreciate this. At one point you will appreciate it.
So every time you appreciate it, that's the Brahmakara.
No, if you truly appreciate it, only once you need to appreciate it.
That's right.
Yes. Once you appreciate it, it's done forever. Afterwards you can keep trying to remain centered.
Right.
Now, what happens is you are centered because that's what you are. This is what you are. But the mind keeps flickering. So you keep turning the mind backwards towards this. So some people do it through samadhi. If you do it through vichara, then also the mind will go into samadhi. If you do it right, it will go into samadhi. If you keep doing it, after some time you become familiarized, marination. Somebody said, if you want a post-cooking term, then use the word simmering. Let it simmer. Vedanta vichara, sit with it, look inward and let it simmer. Put the lid on. Stay with it for some time.
So once the understanding is there, it doesn't have to go on again and again.
Yes, but careful there. Understanding is there, you realize then the shift happens. I am not this, I am that.
Right.
And that shift is forever.
Forever.
You will know it for sure. There is clear before and after. It will not go away anymore. Just as your identity as Deepak doesn't go away. It's effortless. You don't have to maintain it. Morning Deepak meditation, evening Deepak meditation. No. Then you have, my Deepak identity has become confused. I need to go into Deepak seminar. And no, you don't have to do anything at all. It's effortless for you. Similarly, this will become effortless.
So when we do this every day, it is just a reminder of what happened before.
So the Brahmakara vritti will go away according to Vedanta. If you see, what will happen? The world becomes falsified. Brahman is revealed as real. If the world is falsified, body is falsified, mind is falsified, and the Brahmakara vritti in the mind is also falsified. But as falsified, you can always evoke the Brahmakara vritti again and again. And as a help. Oh, one more thing here. All these processes are for us. Once a person realizes, makes the breakthrough, that person need not, pick a process like this. Not necessary. That person can go straight to it. The moment it will take half a second for that person to become absorbed, just like that. So it doesn't need any particular technique. I can use a technique if he or she wants. Otherwise, it doesn't matter. Once you recognize this is wood, to recognize this is wood, I have to first tell you the wood is here, but it's not the top, it's not the bottom, it's not the sides, it's not inside, it's not outside. It is that which is actually appearing as top, bottom, inside, outside, all of that. And then finally you're thinking like that, it was that which was the log of wood, that which is the table. One day that which will remain as pieces of wood. So that one continues. Table appeared, table is, table will disappear. Prior absence of table, posterior absence of table. But what is there? Log is there prior, now posterior. Once you understand, oh, this is what you mean by wood. After that, when you want to recognize the wood, do we do that first? That is not the top, not the bottom, not inside, not outside. We don't do that. Neti, we don't do that. Oh, wood, yes, of course, wood. See the table? We say, yeah, I see the table. See the wood? Yes, I see the wood. Straight away we do it. For the enlightened one, keep it like that.
Thank you, Swami. Thank you. Very helpful.
Yes. Then the lady in the back. Then we'll work our way forward, but this is going to be a rapid fire thing. We are already out of time.
Pranam Swami, it's actually a follow-up to that. At other times you've mentioned that we should build a firewall between this sort of Vedantic inquiry and the mantra that the Guru has given. Why is that? And is there a conflict?
Yes, there is a conflict and there is a reason why we should build a firewall, because all this is very fascinating, The moment we sit down to meditate, we want to do this. At least that was my temptation. But what the Guru has initiated you with is a very sacred trust. Remember, this is all our effort going on. But the mantra, the Ishta Devata, the initiation of the Guru, this is your bond between you and Ishvara, Bhagavan. Don't mess with that. Don't keep on trying to improve that. The Guru has given you a particular procedure. You have to think like this. You have to invoke the presence of the deity. You have to invoke the presence of the Guru. All your visualization. Those who have been initiated, they know that. So to do that practice, when you do it in a very sacrosanct way. Don't meddle with it, don't mess with it. After you have finished some time of that, if you want to segue into this kind of practice, you can do that. But what is committed to the Guru, that you do as meticulously as the Guru has given. So these, before enlightenment, it's best to follow the given, especially what is given to you in trust. Take it without trying to fiddle with it, improve it. Guru was old version, now 2.0 Guru. Don't do that. Because we are not enlightened yet, so it will hamper our progress. What happens is then the mind will begin to play tricks. Then our practice will be what I think well, I think good, and I will not practice what I don't, and I no longer like it. At one time, I did what Guru had taught me meticulously. Now I attended a fancy Vedanta retreat. Now I know so many things. Maybe the Guru didn't know all these things. I know better. I'll fiddle with it. Your mind is running wild with it. Don't do it. Why would you want to fiddle with it? Do the mantra japa and then do this. Before the mantra japa you can do this. After the mantra japa you can do this. This is something that can be done anytime. Sitting quietly in a bus you can do it. The beauty of Vedantic meditation is it can be done with eyes open. Mantra japa and all has to be done in a pure place. At least you have to close your eyes and focus inwards. Shut out the world. This, you can use the world.
Thank you, Swamiji, for your wonderful talks. I'm a big fangirl of yours. Till I started listening to you, I didn't know why people felt they had to run after Amitabh Bachchan or Shah Rukh Khan, but now I find myself in the position with you. So I didn't start listening to your talks on purpose or studying Vedanta on purpose. I fell into it by chance. I was going through a very difficult time in my life, and I was very sleep deprived, and I used to turn something on to keep myself awake while driving. And I first heard your talk, and then I just got addicted to your talks.
I've heard that. I'm a good soporific. I induce sleep easily.
No, you kept me awake. You kept me awake while I was driving, doing whatever daily work that we did. So I do two types of meditation. One is I pick a word in the Advaita Vedanta to focus on, and one is to calm my mind. I need a second kind of meditation. So for my current word in Vedanta is asangoham, and I've been doing it actually for 2-3 years, but I have progressed, but I'm not still happy with my progress, but it's going on. I don't have a choice about that because I have a child with special needs, and we live a day-to-day life where who knows what's going to come tomorrow. So, but it has been very, very good for me. It's helped me calm down a lot and really see things in a different way. And when things are going bad, instead of thinking, why is this bad happening to me? I can say, what can I gain from this? My question is regarding my second one. I do my meditation twin. I don't know if you're familiar with twin. So it's a Buddhist one where you think of one, like what I do is think about a love that...
Can you sharpen the question?
So I practice on with you following the twin method where you focus on one emotion, where I use love and meditate on that slowly for myself, for my loved ones, for others, for everybody. So in that I found a lot of relief, where I get this out-of-body experience. So, but I don't know what to make of it.
See, so that's your question.
Yes.
To make up. See, the answer in Advaita Vedanta is very simple. Whatever experience that you have, that we have, what is it? It's an object to consciousness. In Vedanta, the answer is very simple. To whom is this out-of-body experience happening? Whether you have an out-of-body experience or the in-the-body experience or no-body experience, whatever it is, we always turn back to what is, to whom or to what is this experience appearing. Vedanta is not interested in all of this. Vedanta is interested in this. Somebody approached a Vedanta teacher, a monk, and started talking about his problems. And the master said, I am not interested in your problems. So cruel. What is this? You are not interested in your problems? And he said, I am interested in you. Opening up a gap between you and the problems. That's what he did, Lakshmidhara Kavi. Dukkha dosha pravrittaya. It is the samsartri, the one who is in samsara, who has suffering, who has defects, who has problems, who is engaged in a variety of activities. No me, not them, not mine. I am the witness of that. So step back, Vedanta will say, who or what is happening or is having the outer body. That's important. Outer body experience begins and ends. Therefore, it's on the objective side. You don't begin and end. You were there before the outer body experience, you are there during the outer body experience, you are there after the outer body experience. Who is that? What is that which is there before, during and after? All our problems, see, our whole thing is we are trying to look for satisfaction, solving our problems here. Vedanta is saying, no, you can never do it here. It's here. The gentleman there, we'll work through our way up there. The gentleman there. And then, yes. Can you just pass it?
Swami.
Yes.
Thank you again also for all these discourses. I've seen so many of the videos, it's a privilege to see you in person. My question is pretty quick, and it's a historical one. I'm wondering when the ancient sages discovered infinite consciousness, was there a method to establish it as a hypothesis first and then approach it that way, or did a realization occur and then they subsequently transcribe the experience?
Right. So there are two ways of looking at it. One is these insights were transmitted. If you look at the Vedas, the Lord, Ishvara, Bhagavan, at the beginning of the cycle of creation, gives the Vedas to the sages. Mundaka Upanishad, for example. What does it say? It starts with the beginning of the universe. Brahma Devanam Prathamasam Babhuva. Of all the gods, Brahma was the first to appear. Not Brahman, Brahma, the creator. Brahma Devanam Prathamasam Babhuva Vishwasya Karta Bhuvanasya Gopta. The one who created this universe and protects the universe. Sa Brahma Vidyam Sarva Vidya Pratishtham Atharvaya Deshtaputraya Praha. So he revealed the knowledge of Brahman, the science of Brahman, to his firstborn son, Atharva. They are not human beings. They are some kind of spiritual being, rishis. So Brahma reveals it to the rishis. That's one way of looking. It's a divine revelation. Much like what Moses received or Muhammad received, a divine revelation. It comes from God. Another way of looking at it is just the same phenomenon from the side of the rishi. Vivekananda favored the second one. By their spiritual practices, they discovered pre-existing spiritual truths. Rishis in the depths of meditation discovered this. Both ways you can take it. And they have transmitted it down to us. Then it becomes texts. Yes. And then you had a question, right? We'll end with the gentleman here. Yes.
Thank you, Swamiji. It's been a pleasure the whole weekend. I've been convinced of many things, one of which is the importance of the fairly solid ratio of bhakti in my yogic distribution. I'm coming from a place that I don't currently have some top candidates for Ishta, and I was curious, you mentioned the Mukadisha. Can that take the place of the Ishta?
Mention the what?
Mukadisha, that you go and say to your local Vedantic society, talk to the Swamis too.
Mantra Diksha. Yeah, Mantra Diksha will give you an Ishta Devata. So Mantra Diksha will... yes. So when you go to the Guru will give you a mantra, and that mantra will be connected to an Ishta. I'm sorry, I missed that. What did you say? It's all practice, yeah. Because mantra is Ishta mantra, the mantra of the Ishta. It's the name of the Ishta. So they're connected. It's the sound form of the Ishta. Ishta is a form that you see, and mantra is something that you hear. So both of them literally are God. So it's esoteric, but it's good. I mean, it's a very powerful practice.
Namaskar Swamiji. In one of your YouTube talks, you referenced a section from the Gospels of Sri Ramakrishna, in which he says, in the ocean of Satchidananda, due to the bhakta's love, there are condensations of like ice, but then there's also quartz as well that is permanently frozen. And you also mentioned, where you referenced another Swami of the Ramakrishna order who said the ladder of lower truth and higher truth can be flipped around.
Swami said that.
Yeah.
I was there when he said it, yes.
So I was wondering if you could elaborate on what that is.
So we are going beyond this. Remember, spirituality is a vast land. And here we have limited ourselves to, admittedly, to the highest peak, the Advaita Vedanta, the Everest, the view from the Everest. But still the view from the Everest. And the Everest can be a pretty uncomfortable place to stay. And the valleys are much more comfortable. So there are many, many paths in spiritual life. Right now where we are, for example. So Advaita Vedanta is a kind of path, is one type of path. But the Franciscan path of devotion to Jesus Christ is another path. It's a devotional path, a bhakti path. Now, what Sri Ramakrishna was saying is that what is this bhakti path? It's the same ocean of existence, consciousness, bliss. But the sheer devotion, the cry of the devotee to experience it. See, you can never objectify it. You can never see it like a cactus. It can't come there. You can't see it. The cactus will at least prick your finger if you touch it. It won't do that. It's ever the subject, never an object. But we want it as an object because all our senses are flowing outwards. What can we do then? Then out of grace, this pure consciousness associated with Maya manifests as avatar. Or at least gives visions to sages who then construct names and forms and images which will help us to realize that Brahman. Now, that is the path of bhakti. Vivekananda put it even more simply. Seen from the inside, it is the Atman of Advaita Vedanta. Seen from the outside, as it were, it is God of religion. That it is your real religion in Advaita Vedanta. If that's too difficult, there is an ultimate reality which is God. As if we are seeing from outside. I am this guy who is seeing that ultimate reality. So then you have the dualistic path, devotional path. Now, Sri Ramakrishna said, when the sun of knowledge rises, Aham Brahmasmi, this one will melt back into pure consciousness. You will realize I am that pure consciousness, right? But then that itself is privileges non-dualism above dualism. Which gives you the feeling, yes, dualism then is a lower form. Because when the sun of knowledge rises, it will melt back into, just like ice melts back into water. So Sri Ramakrishna adds there, not that it will always melt back into water. Sometimes there are areas of permanent ice. Sri Ramakrishna says, I've heard there are areas of permanent ice, this was before global warming. So, where the ice never melts. So these eternal forms, it's a Chinmoy Sham, Chinmoy Dham. Sham by Krishna of consciousness, and the abode of Krishna is also consciousness, and that stays forever. Because the bhakta will say, what I realize, the devotee, I am not interested in your non-dualism. I and my beloved mother. This is eternal and this is final. Sri Ramakrishna gives hints of it. He says, yes, it can also be final. That is not something that Advaita Vedanta would say. Advaita Vedanta would say it's hierarchical. This is the highest. Logically, this is very neat. And logically, that's not so easy to defend. However, who says that logic has to be the final thing? The Lord can be logical. Yeah. What was the other question?
It was, you referenced...
the Swami who said, yes. So, we say dualism, I and God are separate. The universe, I and God are separate. That's what we feel. And qualified non-dualism. The Brahman is the whole, and I and the universe are parts of Brahman. And non-dualism, I am Brahman. This is Brahman. I am Brahman. And these three are different levels of spiritual realization. But the moment you say that, again, hierarchy comes in. Dualistic realization is the lowest, qualified monism is higher, and non-dualism is the highest. Says who? The non-dualist, because we want to be the highest. But Swami Bhuteshanjaya said, he was a master of non-dual Vedanta, but he was very neutral about this, higher and lower thing. So a monk asked him, I was there, a monk asked him, so Swami, isn't it like a ladder? First dualism, then qualified monism, then Advaita, which means you are also pushing, you're not only telling the dualist that you are lower, you're way down there. Not only you're lower, you have to give up your dualism, your beloved Krishna, your beloved Kavi, and move on to, finally to Advaita. You have to move on towards non-dualism. You're putting the pressure on that guy. So Bhuteshanji said, so isn't it like a ladder? He said, yes, but you can reverse a ladder. Then once the top will become the bottom. That's why the Achintya Veda Ved school, which is the philosophical school behind the whole movement of Krishna consciousness and all, it traces its roots back to Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, who's also connected to the new Vedanta school, the new Nyaya school, Navya Nyaya school in Navadvip. So they say this. They say, yeah, non-dualism is not false, it's okay, but it's very crude experience, just basic. They say this, you're right, this is there, pure consciousness, the radiance of pure limitless consciousness, it's there. But if you push a little further, you will find a little blue boy with a peacock feather playing with you. So that's higher. That's higher. And then they go on to, actually I'm translating from their text. The foolish non-dualist, that's us. They see the limitless light of the body of Krishna. They see the light Tanuha. And they think, oh, it's the Nirguna Brahman, Satchidananda, and they faint. They call it Samadhi. They're fools. So they're limited to that. If you want something really higher, you have to be devotee, you have to be devoted to Krishna. So they have reversed the ladder. They accept Advaita Vedanta, but now you are at the bottom of the ladder. Last question.
Swamiji, from Advaita's perspective, aren't Jivan Mukta and reincarnation Bhagwan the same?
No. From Advaita perspective, from Advaita perspective, why Jivan Mukta only? Incarnation of God, Avatara, and you and I, we are the same. And the cactus is also the same. What are we? What is this guy? What is this guy? This is Avatar. Suppose this is Ramakrishna. And this is some random guy. This is some random cactus. All of them are nothing but Nirguna Brahman. That's why when Sri Ramakrishna is towards the end, almost his final message to Vivekananda, he said, he who was Rama, he who was Krishna, is in this body Ramakrishna, but not in your Vedantic sense. Because in your Vedantic sense, everybody is Satchidananda. God is also Satchidananda Brahman. You are also Satchidananda Brahman. This is the only reality that there is. So that's why he clearly mentioned it, not in your Vedantic sense. That means really so. Accepting these differences, then he is clearly declaring that I am an avatar, I am not like you. I am an avatar, the incarnation of God. Because if you take the Vedantic perspective, everybody is an incarnation. Who is not?
And why is there this possibly a cloak of secrecy among identified who's Jivan Mukt already? Why is that?
No, there's no cloak of secrecy. What is there is a reluctance to talk about it and declare it.
Why is that? Because we
I know.
are inspired by,
I know, that's a very American attitude. So everybody speaks about their spiritual experiences, and the Indian attitude was to be very reticent about it. These are your most private, most precious, this is the whole center of your existence. And the idea was, you keep it private because you are not a perfected soul yet. What is the point of talking about it? You say, you're inspiring others. Well, who told you to inspire others? There's one Swami, he has given some mantras for the peace of your mind. One mantra is, who asked you? Another mantra is, what does it matter? It's called the smiling Swami, Anubhavananda Saraswati. If you look at Anubhavananda Saraswati, mantra mala, I think is very funny and very perceptive also. If you search for it, he has made a song out of it. Things like, what does kya fark padta hai? That is the one. What does it matter? I tried to do my best and offered advice and they reacted this way. Who asked you? Like this, very nice instructions, several of them are there. So, you can only inspire and teach others if, Sri Krishna is to say, commanded by God, authorized by God. Have you received the authorization? Otherwise, you say you can give nice talks or write a few books, it will have next to no effect on others and will ruin your own spiritual life. Now we feel we must talk about it and expound it and inspire the world, positivity, fill it. It is very American attitude. I remember one of our monks who is American, he went and asked one of our vice presidents, very senior monk. I was there, yeah, so, or I heard it from somebody. So Swami, please tell us about your spiritual experiences. The Swami said, no. Why not? Because you all cheapen it. You talk about it, you record it, write an article about it, he experienced this and that somewhere. That's it. These are most precious, most valuable, not to be divulged to anybody, and the most you can discuss it with your guru if you like, if you feel the necessity. Otherwise, not at all. Huh? Not even your spouse. Yeah. I mean, if you feel called to it, that reminds me of a funny story. I was in a train once, and this couple, Indian couple, married couple were there in front of me, and there seemed to be a fierce competition in spirituality between the husband and the wife. And the wife talked about her spiritual experiences, and the husband was quiet and morose. And after the wife went to sleep, there are this there's three-tiered bunks in the trains. She went to sleep. The husband confided in me. You know, it's true, she's more advanced than me. What can I do? I feel very depressed. It's not a race. So, if husband and wife, the spouses are both very spiritual, and they're partners in spiritual life, partners in crime, so to say, then they can discuss it among. There are such stories of such very devoted couples who are spiritually advanced, and they converse with each other about spiritual life, about God. Yeah, so such examples are there. Otherwise, you keep it to yourself. All right. With that counsel of secrecy, let us end with the peace chant. Om Shanti 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 Hari Om Tat Sat Shri Ram Krishna Arpanamastu. Mandukya Karika, it even has command, after attaining enlightenment, realize that you are Brahman, Jivan Mukta. Then what do you do? What remains? Jadavat Acharya, behave like a fool. Don't go around giving lectures. So why do we give lectures? It's part of our spiritual practice. We always regard it as our worship of Sri Ramakrishna. That's what we do.